Oh God, it's horrible.
I'm not impressed anymore. I'm just horrified.
Cut to Kirk trying to shove his hand in his mouth.
Hello and welcome to the Games That Made Us podcast. I'm Brent. I'm here with my friend Kirk. Say hi, Kirk.
Beam me up, Scotty.
And as always, we're joined by our good friend Benny. Say hi, Benny.
Hey, everybody.
So we are going to be talking about Chrono Trigger. This is going to be part 2 of that discussion. Want to talk just very quickly, kind of, intro it and have a little bit of discussion beforehand. But just so everybody knows kind of the inside baseball bullshit, we did do this in 2 separate recording sessions. So if I sound like absolute dog shit for part of it, it's because I didn't realize that the brand name on the mount of my microphone was faced a different direction than the brand name on the actual microphone. So half of it's going to sound like I'm just sort of in another room. That's my fault. I'm sorry. And the other half of it, you'll probably be able to hear my voice. If that's something that appeals to you, that's wonderful. And if you don't like hearing my voice, just know that for part of the episode, you won't be able to. So, it's just kind of a choose your own adventure as far as that goes. So yeah, let's real quick. Let's talk a little bit about what we've been playing recently, because I have 2 games that I want to talk about real quickly. But yeah, Kirk, do you have anything that you've been diving into recently that you wanted to mention?
For the longest time, I've been playing whatever the boy has been playing, but he's playing Final Fantasy X, which is kind of a single-player affair, obviously. Sure. Yeah. So I've branched off and jumped back into Destiny 2 lately. They've made a ton of quality of life improvements. Yeah. And it's the new Onslaught mode is really fun. And right now, all the way until June 3rd, all the expansions are currently open access, so you don't have to pay for them. So now is a good time to jump into the game if you haven't before, and have some fun.
Absolutely. Awesome, man. Yeah, I was going to say, I know I've seen a lot of the chatter between you and some of our other friends about that, like that game slowly turning around. I need to, because you got that for me, which I really appreciate. So I need to jump in and put a little bit of time into that. Benny, what about you, man?
So to preface this, because this is kind of roundabout, my wife and I watched the Fallout series recently.
Yes,
really fun.
Isn't that so good?
It's excellent. It was a great ride, and for someone who's literally never played the games and knew nothing about the lore of the universe, yeah, I thought it was. I was telling her it's incredibly faithful. Like, all of the props are game accurate.
Yes.
Like I'm sure there's some people who might be sticklers about certain things, and, like omissions or whatever. But I thought it was awesome, and so my brain gets in the Bethesda Softworks, kind of mode.
Yeah.
Thinking, I want a buggy open world experience, and I briefly booted up Fallout 4. And then I was like, you know what? I love this game, but I'm actually going to work on finishing something instead of playing a game I've actually finished. So I started up Starfield again, which...
Nice.
Cue controversy over either quality or bugginess or, I don't know.
Sure.
Whether or not your character that you created, whether you can put their mouth on the top of their skull or whatever. So I've been playing Starfield again. I don't know, it's fun jumping around in space and shooting stuff. And then I got back into Vampire Survivors just as kind of a... after a recent change at work, I've had a lot of meetings, and so I wanted like an AFK thing to do while on Zoom calls, and so Vampire Survivors has featured pretty heavily in that, and they just released some DLC with like Contra characters, so that's pretty fun.
Yes.
I love just how much DLC they keep throwing out for that game. I love it. I'm so happy.
I know.
It's great.
It's just it's never fucking ending, and yeah, it makes me so happy. It's funny. So Erin and I were talking the other day, and she was saying that for like our end of year podcast, we should go back through and count up all the references to games, just like the number of times we said the name of a game, and then like go through that at the end of the year. And it's like, okay, like let's talk about those games. And I'm like, well, that would be completely unfair because I mentioned Vampire Survivors in every episode. And so thank you for making it not just me saying it every time.
I mean, it's going to be Vampire Survivors and then Graveyard Keeper so far, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I have another one to add to the list, and this would be one that actually, Benny, for you might be perfect. And there's a fan Android port, so you don't even need to have like a PC in front of you to play it. Have you guys heard of Balatro?
Nope.
Oh my fucking God. Okay. So Balatro has consumed my life. It's destroyed my marriage and my relationship with my children. I recently was fired from my job and kicked out of my house. I'm actually homeless now because of Balatro. I'm recording this from the alley behind my house. But so Balatro has just absolutely taken over my whole life. It's a roguelike deck builder where the base deck is a standard 52 card deck of cards, and you play poker hands to try and achieve a set number of chips per round. Okay, so the basic conceit is, okay, this round you have to hit 500 chips, and then you are dealt 7 cards. You try and make a hand out of it, just like poker, and the base number of points that you get, the number of chips that you get for the hand is based on what kind of hand it is. So it's, like it's 4 of a kind, let's say, would be 100 chips with a 4 times multiplier on it. And then you get jokers, which are basically, they're like status effects. So they're like trainers in the Pokemon trading card game or something like that, where they have status effects on the hands that you play. So maybe you get a joker that will, as an example, it will eat another joker each round, but each time it eats a joker, it adds 1-time multiplier on the number of points you get per hand played. Or maybe you get a joker that every card that you play counts as a face card, so it'll go for more points. And then you also acquire what are called cosmic and planetary cards, which have permanent effects on the cards in your deck. So they'll add like a multiplier to the card or various other status effects. So you're legit building like a trading card game style deck builder deck, but it's like the Ace of Spades, but it's got these like 6 status effects on it. It's fucking addictive as all shit. Like it's insanely addictive. I've purchased it twice in the last, I don't know, 2 weeks, because I bought it on Switch, and then I was like, well, I got to buy it on Steam too, obviously. I can't just have it on Switch. And then I found the fan Android port that like packages up the Steam distro and turns it into an APK file that you can install on your Android device. So now I've got it on my phone and my iNode, and they all, of course, have different save states. So I'm playing it 4 times at once, and that's fine. And I'm fine. and no one should be concerned about the amount of Balatro I've been playing. At all.
I tried to follow the mechanics that you described, and I think I don't. There were cards, and then there was space, and then there were clones of people.
Yes.
And you were violating international law, and I don't know what's happening.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. But mostly Mexican law. I don't know why, but it's specifically Mexican law that it violates.
Which is shocking because you can do anything down there.
That's true. So I've heard. And then a lot of Hollow Knight. For some reason, I had, since we did the Super Metroid episode, I was like, maybe I gave Metroidvanias like an unfair shake of it. I was like, what Metroidvania do I want to go back and like really sink some time into? And I was like, I really liked Hollow Knight. Mm-hmm. And there's a fan Android port of that as well.
Jesus.
So I've got that on my iNoden as well.
Hollow Knight does have one of the best soundtracks of any game ever, in my opinion.
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, easily. And I just love that world.
Yeah.
Like, it's so...
Its aesthetic
eerie.
is really moody and appealing, but cute.
I like to say hauntingly beautiful.
Yes, 100%. There's something about it. Like, I really want. I know that Nintendo wouldn't make it because it's not a Nintendo property, but I really want an amiibo of Hornet, the like female. Yeah. Like I want her to sit next to Sheik on my desk here.
Well, after I move, maybe I can print you one. You can paint it, or we can get our friend to paint it for you.
Oh, I can paint minis. Believe you me, I'm a power nerd. I can paint some fucking minis.
I'm just excited for that new game to come out where she's the main character. She's the protagonist.
Oh, yeah, Silk Song.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I did think it was funny with the whole III initiative. Like they did the like Nintendo Direct style event, and they like faked out all the Hollow Knight fans with fucking Silksong shit, and then everybody was so pissed. And I'm like, that's not maybe not the way to do it, guys. Maybe don't like firebomb one of the biggest fan bases in the fucking indie scene. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. All right. Well, I want to get to our game today. So obviously, if you're listening, we did cover the mechanics, the graphics, and the sound of Chrono Trigger in part 1. If you haven't listened, go back and check it out. We did, in that recording session, we did start to dive into the plot, and we did talk about a decent chunk of it. So I am going to transition us back to that earlier recording. We're going to start by talking about Chrono jumping in after Marley and going to 600 AD.
Marl.
No.
I did love, by the way, your friend who was like, yeah, it's this and this and this and Marley. And I was like, okay, 1 for 3 keeps you in the majors. That's perfect. But we're going to transition back to Benny talking about the plot of the game. And then you guys will rejoin current Brent, Kirk, and Benny when we get to talking about Robo and that part of the game. So I'm gonna
Robbo. I'm just kidding. I'm fucking with you.
Nobody calls him Robbo. But so we will catch up with you guys in a couple minutes, and we will start talking about the back 2/3 of the plot.
Yeah. So you find yourself in the year 600, and it is clearly a 400 years prior version of the same kingdom of Lean that you were in before. They have relocated their lost queen.
Right. They found Princess Lean, who is
Queen Lean.
Queen Lean.
They've relocated Queen Lean, who had gone missing at the time.
Right.
But she has these strange mannerisms and requests for things that seem oddly futuristic for the time.
They said she sends for you, and they said,
"Oh, that's right."
You go upstairs and you find out that it is in fact Marley, and that she is just.
They've mistaken her for the queen. Her
Lean.
likeness is so close that they've mistaken her.
And there's actually a really cool part later on in the game where the sprites are like duplicated multiple times, where you can see how that her whole female line has basically looked physically identical.
I don't think we need to couch it any sort of obfuscation. She's the ancestor of Queen Lean is Marl's ancestor.
Yes. So Marley is in fact Princess Nadia, who is the I'm sorry, man. I keep kicking that. I'm gonna move my foot. Who is the like direct heir to, direct descendant of Queen Lean and the heir to the throne of the kingdom that you've been in. And then you talk to her, you talk to Marley. She's like, ha, it's so funny they think I'm Lean, isn't that great? I'm such a trickster, do. And then she's like, oh God, Mr. Stark. I don't feel so good. And then she starts disappearing in front of your eyes.
Pop, she's gone.
And you go looking for her.
Because the queen has been missing still.
Right. The actual queen is still gone. And you wind up going to
the cathedral.
The woods, where there's a whole bunch of nuns who are actually monsters from a Hindu carving of some kind. And
crazy psycho snakes.
Yeah.
Also, I think they changed the name in the more recent translations. But the Hindu the Hindu creature is called a Naga.
Yeah.
And creatively translated to Naga-et in the original translation of the game, which is
Naga, or it's Naga
-et. Pretty on the nose. I love it. It's so good.
That's good. But so you wind up. Luca winds up showing up.
She's created a gate key that allows her to follow the time gate that was opened by the machine.
Right, jump from one period to another. You also are joined by a character who you briefly saw earlier when you were in the castle, named Frog. And Frog is my favorite character in the game.
Frog is great.
He's a frogman.
He is a frogman. He's the last of a long line of frogmen.
So this is a good opportunity to pause for 15 seconds and talk about Ted Woolsey, the original translator of this game. So I do think this is one of the criticisms of the original version of this game, which is that the English translation is not great. It's a little bit clunky.
Yeah.
Ted Woolsey, the guy who translated it, had 30 days to localize the entire game for a Western audience.
Yes.
Which is absurdly short amount of time to do that kind of work in. And given what
especially this game, because this game has an enormous amount of dialogue, and if you know anything about dialogue and the way it was programmed into games in this era, where you're talking about string length and what the CPU could physically handle, and the fact that you couldn't just I'll just write out what it says in English. No, there were physical hardware limitations that meant that if something had a certain string length, you had to try and translate it to something that was roughly equivalent, which is particularly hard with Japanese, which has
a very large character set as well.
Yeah, a syllabic character set versus a alphabet. Yeah. this was a real art, dude.
And so the translation in places is a little bit clunky.
Yeah.
But you do get, and I believe Frog in the Japanese is also speaking in an older dialect. Yes. I think he's using some antiquated phrases.
Yeah.
And the localization at the time really leaned into that, and he's using Middle English these and thous, and
it's like an Elizabethan.
Exactly. Yeah. He's changing some of the the subject vowels and the syntax changes, and it's noticeable, and it's kind of charming.
Yeah.
And along with Frog's absolute dedication to his to his nightly duties, because he basically he comports himself as he's a
nightly duties.
Every night, man, every night. He's bound by honor.
Yeah.
And by
we're just gonna keep replacing that K with a space and just like continue to.
Anyway.
Yeah. Continue.
Frog is great.
Frog is amazing.
He is also searching for Queen Lean.
Yes.
Which he has not mistaken. I don't remember, he's either not noticed that someone has popped up that the kingdom has incorrectly assumed is Queen Lean, or he doesn't believe that she's been located, but he is still pursuing her. And so you meet him at the church, and he offers to accompany you through the underground bunker that you find under the church. Basically, it's a fortress. And so at this period in time,
a Catholic church.
Yeah. Well, and
dude, it's fucking there, right? But
yeah.
Also,
and in this period, it's
humanity is at war with monsters.
Yes.
They are at war with what are they called?
Humanity's at war with the Catholics.
Oh.
God.
Well, because they say
there's the word it's basically a war between the monster races and humanity,
right? For
land,
right?
And
the southern continent's already been overrun.
Yep. There's a bridge. There's Xenon Bridge, which is the last bastion or the last holdout. Basically, it's like the pass at Thermopylae in 300, or in that old myth. It's basically what's going on there. And what has clearly happened is that the monsters have a secret base much closer to home than anybody guessed, and they have kidnapped the queen.
Right.
And so you are now, you're fighting. That's actually, that first battle down there is actually pretty tough. That's actually one of the hardest ones in the game, in my opinion, for where you are at that time. But you fight your way through the underground of the cathedral,
right? And
encounter the leader, and he makes his final stand, and then you do battle. What were you going to say, Brent?
Well, and I was going to say, it's one of the hardest parts of the game, particularly because by that point, you haven't really learned all the mechanics of the game.
You really haven't even had that many fights.
Yeah, honestly.
Unless you went out of your way and went through Guardia Forest a few times. Even your levels are just...
Yeah, that's true.
And that's one of the things, the game expects you to treat it like a JRPG in the fact that it's expecting you to talk to everyone, do everything. But up to that point in the game, you haven't been... If you've been avoiding fights, you really haven't had that many opportunities to test out combat. And combat in this game is unique. Yeah. And so, that first dungeon, that first boss battle can be really tricky. I mean, that one...
It shows you some basic mechanics. It's very light, but there's some puzzle-solving mechanics in this game. To get to the underground area, you locate a combination, essentially, for a hidden combo lock that uses the organ in the cathedral above to unlock the secret door, which is also great. A great showcase of the sound in the game, where like there's this moody little series of chords that you play to unlock the door, and then all of a sudden the grinding of stone and the snap as the mechanism opens, and then you started opening things, and you get some, I think there's a switch to throw, and you have to navigate through, some mildly misleading corridors. There's even a creepy statue to a oddly humanoid character in a hidden room in the back that some of the characters are praying to. There's a statue to Magus in a hidden room in the back of the cathedral.
What?
And there are monsters praying to the statue.
I think I missed that.
Hailing him in the back.
Did you miss that room where there's a bunch of monsters like sitting around eating and drinking? And
no, like, that one I went to. And they were like, "Why are you still wearing that stupid human suit?"
Yeah, that's so good.
I like that.
That one I've been to.
Yeah,
no, I didn't know about the fucking Magus thing. That's great though.
Yeah. They're standing around a statue to him, and you have no idea who he is. There's some light talk about him in the castle at the very beginning when you get there, and they're talking about Magus's forces and what they're going to do against the enemy. Yeah. But it's all kind of, it's good storytelling because they assume that you're smart enough to know that they're not going to mention something for no reason, and so it's going to matter later. But you look like you have something to say.
No, I was just going to say, like, I think that's a really important point, because if you look at other late 80s, early 90s games, there's a lot of, like, I'm thinking of, like, the Castlevania 2, like that kind of stuff. Like, there's a lot of games where, if you walk around and talk to everybody, guess what you did? You wasted all your fucking time, because most of them were just like, they have a dialogue box because the developers knew that they had to have a dialogue box. There is no, and I know I mentioned it before, but there's no fat on this game. Yeah. This game is every interaction, everything you can do in this game furthers the plot, furthers the story, or furthers your character. That's it. There's nothing in this game that is wasted or useless. And as somebody who is very opposed to the 100-hour game, this is such a tonic. Like, this is just such a breath of fresh air. And I wish more games would look to Chrono Trigger as an inspiration.
So without waffling on it for too long, I kind of want to get to the crux of the game, because there's a couple of moments that really happen in quick succession, relatively speaking, that are really important to why the game even exists, or like what happens. Yeah, so I think that first battle is very important, and yes, you eventually free Queen Lean, and then Nadia / Marley comes back. You're gonna run through a series of really cool. This becomes a time travel game. That's the crux of this, right? Luca winds up letting you know that, I can like help find these different time gates. You wind up sort of getting forced into the time gate in the Middle Ages. And the fact that the time gates are there, all this, like, they're correct. Now we're finding time gates. Yes. So we finished. So we saved Queen Lean. Everyone's happy at the castle, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's fun." But she's the ancestor, and we have time travel. We're not really too worried about that. Right. So we're going to bid you a fond farewell. Good luck in the future, all. And then we head back into the forest and go back to the original time gate and try to go back through it, where we are promptly arrested. Right. We are going to be held captive and accused of kidnapping and brainwashing Princess Nadia, who is Marl. We are going to be imprisoned and held to trial. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, nothing. I do just love that. Like, it is one of those things.
We keep taking like pause and like exchanging glances. Like, I know you say this wrong, you piece of shit.
No. Okay.
I both looked at each other and just kind of smiled.
I listened to a podcast the other day where it's two brothers and they do Zelda games, and they did Ocarina, and the one brother was like, "Yeah, when Navi does that."
Okay, that's just wrong.
And he's like,
"That's weird."
And the other brother's like, "I'm sorry, what?" It's like, yeah, Navi, she goes and she does the thing, and I'm like, and the other brother's like, Navi, it's Navi. He's like, no, it's Navi. And I'm like, no. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, none of the slight difference. Like, I'm like Taven or Talon. It's like Marley or Marl. It's like, those are all reasonable. The guy who's like Navi, there's something wrong with him.
That's objectively incorrect, sir.
Right. Yeah.
Please stop.
Yeah.
Cease and desist.
Yeah, we're playing the Legend of Zelda.
Shigeru Miyamoto just shows up to his house just chain smoking, and it's like you open up the door and he just smacks you across the face and walks off.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to talk anymore about this, but you're fucking wrong.
God. All right, where were we?
Yeah, so you return to 1000 AD.
And Kirk spends extra time in prison because he ate the fucking chicken.
He does. He does.
No.
So you what?
You do though.
No,
so
I don't
you
spend
go to
extra time in prison.
Okay, that's true. I'm just accusing.
I had one guilty verdict after I was arrested.
Also, the Super Nintendo version, there's a glitch where, if I remember correctly, you get one guilty verdict regardless of what the fuck you do.
You do.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't ever get totally exonerated in the Super Nintendo.
Well, yeah, I still do all the other things. Like, I saved that pussy. And I going back to that joke from earlier. No, like at the Millennium Fair, I do all those extra things. So, when I get it's the character witness thing. The only bad thing I do is I eat the chicken.
So
I always eat that fucking chicken.
To be clear, guys, for those of you who haven't played, because I just realized we haven't said, it's like a chicken sandwich or a roast chicken. Like, I don't want you to picture like Chrono walking through and there's just like a cuckoo from Legend of Zelda and he just grabs it out of the air and just like blood and feathers shooting everywhere. That's not what he's talking about.
In that case, now I can see why everyone would think I was
Wait, if that works for you, then that's absolutely what happens.
Yes. Yeah. No, I've changed my mind.
So you are on trial for being a degenerate piece of shit, you degenerate piece of shit. And depending on the actions you take, there's a whip and a guy in a tight leather suit. Okay. I'm just lying about this.
Hang on.
So all of the events the choices you make at the Millennial Fair in the beginning are the evidence towards your guilt or your innocence in the trial. Yeah. I fucking love the end of this, by the way, because it doesn't matter how innocent you are. The Chancellor is a secret monster-loving piece of shit, and it's just like, we're gonna execute him anyway, and then they're just like lock him up, throw away the key, kill his ass. Right. And so the rest of this is basically like a break out of jail heist plot line until the next section of the game, which has one of the coolest boss battles in any JRPG ever. Fighting the dragon tank is so cool. So sick. So it's one of the few sections of the game. There's a couple of these that happen where you're doing a side-scrolling 2D moment. You're making your way across the final bridge to escape the prison, which is basically like one of those crazy hang out in the middle of space, dangling out over the air, Castlevania castle wings. Is like the prison of the castle, and like you're basically like back, you're almost home free, and the Chancellor rolls out like the newest bit of technology that they've come up with, which is this badass dragon tank, which has fucking rockets, and it's just so anachronistic, and I love it.
Well, and one of the things that I think is really interesting about this fight, and it becomes a theme throughout the rest of the game, and this is not unique to Chrono Trigger. A lot of JRPGs do this, but in fact, there's even a meme about the Pope with his bishops looking like a JRPG boss because it totally looks like this. But there's a guard as you're coming up through the stairs in this. The captain of the guard like runs away, or you fight him, and he drops a piece of paper, and the piece of paper says like, if you don't kill the head of the dragon tank, it'll just keep regenerating. And if
it's like a design schematic.
Yes, and if you don't walk over and read that, and you're just like, well, I'll just keep beating up the body, you will never win that fight. Like, it's literally impossible. And there's been a couple of things already, even by that point in the game, that have worked like that, where they regenerate, and certainly that happens further on in the game.
And some of them are less explicit about presenting you the solution. So like eventually you get to
like Masa and Lune.
Exactly. Well, and the final, the very
fucking hard.
And the
Masa
very
and Lune are
that's a hard fight.
The very final boss has a throwback to like a boss a quarter of the way through the game.
Yes.
Where you have to know that one of the smaller bits is the one that you have to kill.
Is the actual bad
is
guy.
Is the enemy. Is the like the heart or the brain or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that in exchange for grinding, you have to apply your intelligence to so there's not no challenge here. There's a challenge. It's just a challenge of intelligence rather than the time you can commit, which probably really is one of the reasons why this has managed to become my favorite game.
Yes.
Because my ADHD riddled Swiss cheese brain could sustain the attention required to move through any given section.
Well, and one of the things that, like, because I find it frustrating in a lot of JRPGs when people are like talking about how, it's just too hard for you, and it's like, no, because like in most JRPGs, the difficulty doesn't come in actual like reaction time or skill set. The difficulty comes in the number of hours you're willing to plow into the game. Chrono Trigger manages to be a JRPG that is respectful of your time.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard line to walk. There's a game that's one of my favorites that I'd love to talk about, and we might actually do this as a podcast episode, but a game that I played actually immediately after this called Cosmic Star Heroine. That's like a modern...
I still have to play it.
Yeah, modern indie game that took a lot of notes from Chrono Trigger, and is even shorter, but is a really, really fun game. And yeah, it's respectful of your time. But yeah, so you
beat the tank.
You beat the tank. You're free.
Oh, Luca shows up. Like that's
important.
That's
right. Luca shows up in the prison. Yeah, she's coming to help save you.
I was going to come save you, but you're already
already out. Yeah,
and it's important that she's like there,
which is like a hilarious like 80s like action movie moment where she's like, "Oh shit! Like you already broke out, but I'm here to save you.
Get in, Dr. Jones."
I can't remember. We might need to look this up, but I think if you wait in the cell long enough, she actually shows up, or something happens and they break you out of the cell. If you wait too long,
I think I read that in a playthrough or in like a walkthrough, but I
don't remember.
It.
I don't remember what happens, but yeah, you can actually wait too long and then like advance, like the plot advances for you.
Yeah,
but so yeah, Luca shows up, and she's like, I was gonna save you, but we gotta get out of here,
right?
And you're trying to flee, but the Chancellor is still bad. Is still saying that you're like, you're an escaped prisoner. He is basically convinced the king that his daughter's brainwashed. So even though Marl is like screaming at her dad, like, "Hey, I went there. He's my friend." Marl is the right way to pronounce this name.
It's just too funny because we always shoot each other a glance, and I just go. Chris starts laughing.
The guards chase you into the forest. You
Right.
you have no choice but to flee from the guards because they're not trusting you.
Yes,
So you flee.
yeah. The game literally forces you
Yeah.
to not stop until
It's actually kind of hilarious and cute the way the guards are just like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
they're
get you,
like-
I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you.
they herd you into this corner. Like if you just stand there, they will just kind of like bump you shoulder wise into the time portal.
It's one of the and that's what happens. It's one of the only like circumstantially like hilarious moments where like they chase you down like a limited path into the forest and you're like, oh god, there's nowhere to go except for the time gate behind us. It's like, well, I guess we could stay and get arrested again or go through the time gate. And so
I love, by the way, the Chancellor, like, because it's the same Chancellor sprite, other than it's a recolored version of the medieval Chancellor, and he has this animation where he's shocked and his mouth
jaw hits the floor,
goes literally down to his feet, and he's raw.
It's great.
It's so good. It's so stupid, but it's so good.
And so we flee through this next time gate, and we don't know where we're going. We're fleeing,
right?
And
you
all
get
of
the
a sudden,
Doctor Who transition.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
It's got such a cool
that was
transition.
That was gonna be one of my notes. Is like.
The quality of that animation.
That animation does not look like something from a Super Nintendo game. Yeah. It has this weird like spinning, curving, multicolored effect on a black background, and it looks like something that would have required like a PS1 or a Saturn hardware to achieve.
It definitely has a 2D to 3D kind of simulation going on.
It's really cool.
But it really is just like an 16-bit whatever version of just like the Doctor Who entry.
Oh hell
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And just remove the TARDIS and that whole spinning spiral thing. Like that's exactly what it is. And it's amazing. Just,
and in Doctor Who fashion, we're never knowing where we're going to end up. We end up in a suddenly super futuristic looking building, and so there's like weird lights and like metallic panels and like weird stairs and like a corrugated metal platform that you're standing on, and you exit to find an absolute hellscape, like a post-apocalyptic hellscape of a world. There's these strange futuristic dome structures in the distance on the world map. So you exit immediately onto the world map, and I believe it's even the dome is named. I don't remember what it's called. Is it Eris Dome? But it's something like that.
Yeah.
And you're on the world map, and there's this howling wind sound effect, and there's no greenery. It's all brown and washed out. You don't know when you are, and of course that's the operative thing here is that we've traveled through time. We follow the path to another dome and find a group of surviving humans are occupying the neighboring dome. And it's
sorry, real quick. I'm gonna cut you off here for a second because this is something I had in my notes. The level of desperation and hopelessness in this section perforated. It was first off, it was perfectly perforated with these moments of absolute hilarity. Like first off, the Robo himself, who we'll get to, but also the like jetpack guy.
What's his name?
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Johnny, that's right.
Johnny's great. But so first off, like it was very like well structured. But there's a moment of desperation in this. There's a moment, and I want to be clear. It's not desperation for your characters. It's desperation for the people who live in this time. That is going to be one of those things that like sticks with me forever. Which is there's save points throughout the game where you can go, and this is very typical of JRPGs. You go to the save point and it replenishes your MP and HP. Like it brings you back to normal health. Well, in the super futuristic post-apocalyptic era in Chrono Trigger, there's this thing called the Enertron that you can go to, and it'll do the same thing as a save point. But what happens is you jump in it, and it'll pop out, and you pop out, and it'll say, your HP and MP are restored, but you're still hungry.
And it's so haunting. How long have these people been sustaining themselves that way?
Yeah, like they're alive. They're definitely not dead, but they're still hungry. And it's just like, oh God, I need to lie down.
And then
it's a state of perpetual hunger, only being kept alive by those machines.
And so one of the first things that happens is like you're just trying to figure out where to go. And so you're like, hey, like we're trying to figure out like, is there anything, notable, like we're travelers from like, basically they assume you're from far away. Like there's a little girl who will sell you stuff, but she's like, if you call this shit money, that's fine. But she's like, I guess I'll take it. Yeah. Like how bad do things have to be where some like a merchant is like, I don't even think this is money, but I'll sell you shit for it. Yeah. And they finally say, there used to be a computer underneath this structure at the bottom of this dome that knew more about what was going on, but we can't get there because the computer's turned off. Yeah. Leading to the chase of a rat through a through a catwalk. Okay. It's actually a weirdly difficult platforming section of this game.
So yeah, there's this bit in the game where you're chasing a rat, and in the DS and forward versions, no, I'm sorry, just the forward versions, the Steam and Android versions, it auto runs, so you don't have to hold down the button; it'll just auto run. But in the DS and back versions, there's a button to press to run, and if you're one of these people like me who by default lets off the run button when you turn a corner, because I'm used to games with momentum, this game punishes you for that. You must hold down the run button at all times while you're chasing the fucking rat.
Because the rat is holding a combination to a door that you have to get through.
Yes. To like proceed with the story, and yeah, I've chased this goddamn rat so many times. I did not like it was great. I was playing the Android version of this game yesterday, and I got to the rat part, and I was just like, oh, I just caught him. Like I was like, no big deal, and I'm like, oh right, because I didn't have to hold down the run button, and I didn't have to fight against my instincts. But yeah, no, this goddamn rat, man. Fuck this rat.
So you chase the rat, you get the combination to the door, and you go through it, and then you encounter your first futuristic boss fight, which everything styled in this game is just beautiful. It's so fun. Oh my God. Yeah. You triumph over the boss, and you get into the back section of this area, only to find that the food is all gone bad because the refrigeration failed.
And the little girl up above who was like, I hope my daddy comes back.
Oh, fuck, that's right.
You find his remains. Rotting corpse is in the back of the fucking food storage area. God,
that's right.
He made it past the fucking robot boss that you and your party just barely beat. He made it past to get to the food storage area, and then he died in there trying to get food for his little girl. I guess we like bleak games. I don't know.
I guess so. This one gets more bleak before it gets better, but it's so good.
Doesn't he like crumple or
he does
slump over
if you like touch him and his body like disintegrates.
Yeah. That's so I forgot. Sad.
Yeah. God.
And so you go back upstairs.
Oh, but what do you find there?
You find a seedling.
Yes.
Yeah. So
this is a recurring motif as well. That
it's like Waterworld, but it's good.
There's This game features a repeat. Jesus, you stay out of Kevin Costner's business. God damn it.
I'll do what I want. Kevin Costner can come here and fucking fuck with me.
I would love to see that. That would be so cool.
Just bare knuckle box, like Kimbo Slice
Yeah.
style.
It's like
fucking Kevin Costner versus Brett in the fucking backyard.
your neighbors are looking out the window, just like, "What's Brett doing?" Like, I don't know, but it's
one time only.
Is that
An aging Hollywood star faces off against a 6'5" monster.
Is the fucking postman in the backyard beating up our neighbor?
Yes. Superman's dad getting his ass kicked.
Thank you for insinuating that I'd be the one who won that fight.
I think you could take Kevin Costner.
I mean, he is almost 70, so
Yeah.
I think I'd probably... Yeah. All right. So anyway,
Okay, so yeah, a repeated motif we run into is rebirth out of death.
yeah,
The seedling out of in the wasteland is
Yeah.
literally a motif we see a couple times.
absolutely.
So you get back upstairs, everybody's depressed, but there's a little bit of like these.
I'd like to
there's
put
also,
my seedling in
there's-
Ayla's wasteland. If you know
Oh
what I mean.
Jesus Christ! I doubt there's a wasteland there.
No,
Oh, that was unfortunate of me to say.
I bet it's a lush jungle.
God damn it!
Yeah.
Jesus.
It took me a second. I was like, oh.
There's
Like to get a look at her kudzu, if you know what I mean.
What's that tail do?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh,
She's
Brent and I
hot.
did
I
have
think we legitimately hurt Benny's feelings. Sorry, buddy.
I was starting puberty when I started playing this game.
Yeah.
I noticed.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's two important things to get to,
Sure.
and then I think we can kind of abbreviate plot because there's
Yeah.
so many great things after a particular moment that are better discovered than
Yeah.
explained. But there's a couple moments here.
We do it.
So we've got like that motif that I talked about, and like human audacity and temerity, and are some other themes, and like the people are still managing to kind of barely hang on,
Yeah.
even though they don't have much hope. They're managing to hang on. They mention there's another dome off in the distance that might have more information.
Right.
If only you could get to it, but there's all these mutants in the way. There's this impossible barrier to you.
Right.
But Chrono and team decide to brave it anyway. So you go and you get into the mutant ruins,
Right.
and you start fighting some, frankly, awesome. Again, everything is so cool. All the stylings of all the enemies,
Yes.
and everything looks so goddamn good in this game. It's just
Yeah.
beautiful.
Some of the monsters in that area actually are very Cronenberg-esque.
They-
So that is
absolutely,
kind of
yeah.
Cronenberg trigger. Hell yeah.
And you get to the end of
I'm going to fucking write that down. Like, that's awesome.
do it. You
That's
get to
gonna
the
be
end
the name
of
of the episode. It's gonna be episode 10 Cronenberg Trigger.
You get to the end of the mutant ruins, and you get
Yeah.
to a highway, and there's a robot there who confronts you, and you start. They actually don't they like it's like West Side Story. They like surround you and start like going in circles and like kicking the shit out of you, and then
you meet Robo first.
That's-
No!
you
You're
don't.
talking about yes.
Johnny. I mean, talking about
You're
Johnny.
talking about Johnny.
There's a
God.
there's a racing section in this game and everything.
I hate the fucking racing section.
Oh, really? I love it. It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's so broken though.
If you,
It's
like,
just wait till you get close to the end and hit
the
B.
boost.
Yeah.
But it's
That's not
okay.
That's not a race.
Okay, there's some mechanical parts of it that aren't great, but like
Yeah.
but it looks so okay. But it's like flavor. It's like anything else. It looks so good, and then when you win,
it's
and the
flavor-
camera starts panning around
it's
you,
flavor unless you did it 8 times before you got to fucking beat it and move on with the story, and then it's a fucking annoyance. It's flavor if it works.
Brent, I can't make you better at a game, Brent.
But
I'm sorry.
That's
Okay,
accurate.
you make a fair point. It is
Yeah,
absolutely
it's
broken,
very
but
tedious too. I
but-
think.
yeah.
Like it's
I-
still fun. I do
Well,
like how
especially
you're
when you have to
establishing.
go back the other direction.
Yeah,
you have to
but I like the weird Mad Maxian dystopian
It is.
thing. That's
No,
why I
it's-
like. Even though I thought it was tedious, it was still fun at the same
time.
You have to do it multiple
You've got
times.
this cool ass looking jet bike that you can ride, and like he is such like a greaser robot douchebag. He's so cool, and like the moment when you win the race and like the camera, you get the music like do 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 do, and then the camera's panning and like you can just let it go. It's so pretty. It's so good.
The winning a battle music in this game is like, well, and like any JRPG needs like good battle music and good like winning and losing a battle music, and like this game has that to the point where after 30 hours I was not annoyed by the like that would come in and I would just be like, okay, yeah, I'm ready.
And
it's not like Super Mario RPG where after you hear that battle music, you just want to kick a puppy.
And there's a victory song that only plays occasionally after certain significant moments that is very triumphant and celebratory, and it's great. And it plays at that moment. Yeah. So you traverse the ruins and the race, and you move off on to the other dome in the distance. Yeah. And you start navigating through that and fighting robots. This is like a robot factory. So you're fighting robots and you're activating stuff and you're making your way through. Actually, I think right at the beginning you encounter a robo. You encounter your next companion.
Yes.
So you walk in and there's a deactivated...
Luca has this moment with him. Oh my god. And sorry, just like one of the things that I love about this game is... the way that, because in so many games, and spoiler alert, but this is important with Chrono Trigger, so many games, particularly JRPGs, but generally, every character, like their interactions are focused on them versus, or them with the hero, like them with the player avatar.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the only thing that's important. Our player avatar is not going to be present for the whole game. So it's important to build like how these characters interact with each other. And Chrono Trigger does a great job of that. And particularly the relationship between Luca, who is this scientist inventor. She likes to tinker. She likes she understands way more than she should based on the time period she comes from.
She's the Da Vinci of her time period is kind of how she's framed.
Yes. And she is being plopped down into a universe that is full of machines. And so while everybody else is kind of horrified with this like post-apocalyptic future, every interaction...
Meryl doesn't want you to activate the robot. She's worried about what it will do, and Luca comes back and says it won't. Machines only do what their creators design them to do.
Or in specific, machines aren't evil, humans make them that way.
Yeah.
Thank you. I purposely wrote that down in my notes. Because that even as like a and maybe Benny can relate as tech nerds ourselves and have that in like penchant for engineering and tinkering or whatever. Like it that phrase right there is just like everything I do in my professional life. It's like, no, the computer isn't broken. 9 times out of 10, you are the broken one.
Yeah.
You're the problem.
You are the problem. User error.
Yeah.
So it's just,
PEBCAC.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
an ID10T error
right.
has occurred. And so you take this, you have this little montage of your characters kind of resting in this entryway of this dome while Luca hammers and tinkers and fixes, and you get
Marley's
the sense
like climbing up the goddamn walls. You can see how upset she is by this whole thing.
Just can't stop pacing.
Yeah.
And you can tell time has passed, and finally that triumphant music plays again, and actually there's like a moment of like quiet, and she's like it's done, or like I did it. And she powers him on, and then he's so animated and cool and like cute.
He's so great. I love him so much.
And he turns on, and he's immediately a friend with the party. Yeah. And then you have a choice to make where you get to immediately start building your party, because now you have 4 characters and you can only have 3. And so you have a choice, and fortunately at this time you don't have the option of not having Robo in your party.
Yeah.
And you start getting an idea of how different each of the characters are in combat, and how you get to kind of determine how you want fights to feel.
Yes.
And so he's got these cool like physical punches and like laser moves.
And he's got the spinny laser beam attack that I love so much.
The dance rave attack.
Yes. Yes. And he's got his Never Gonna Give You Up, Never Gonna Let You Down theme music that he plays. Okay. Real quick, I just want to say this is not a serious disappointment with the game, but it was like a little bit disappointment with the game. It was the first time I played through it, because he's like, yeah, well, I'm R66Y. And I was like, oh, he's Reggie. And then it pops up and it's like, yeah, his name's Robo. Like, no, it's fucking Reggie. And so I named him Reggie the first time I played through the game.
That's so good. I never thought of that until you mentioned it. I love that.
I was like, yeah, it's fucking Reggie. Reggie and I are going to go hang out, dude.
It's so good. And so you take your new companion and you navigate this factory, and you finally you fight the boss.
Right.
And you make your way to the back room, and there's a computer, and Robo seems to be missing some data, but he's going to operate the computer and try to find out some things about some kind of mysterious cataclysm that has rendered the world what it is, this wasteland that we've encountered.
Hey everybody, Future Brent here. So this is where we're going to transition to the second recording session. So if the audio sounds a little different than it did for the past 45 minutes or so, that's why. Okay, back to previous Benny.
The game switches over to a short cinematic sequence, and you get to watch the emergence of Lavos back in the
1999,
the
distant
future,
distant
1999.
Yeah.
You get to dive into, or you watch as this horrific mass emerges from the earth and starts spewing fire and shrieking. And it would be easy to reduce this based on the age of the technology and like the sound quality and the visual quality, but it's still kind of chilling, the sound that Lavos makes today, and the soundtrack backing his emergence when you first hear it is this bombastic church organ kind of I dirge almost as he starts ripping his way through the Earth's surface. And what it amounts to is it's the end of the world. Like you
as we know it.
You've arrived in the future to find there is no future, which is kind of cool, and I sounded cool saying that.
That's gonna be the we'll remix that one to go with oh shit, never mind, we'll remix that one.
And we've hit a turning point in the game where there's there seems to be a nexus of events happening, and it seems to have something to do with this emergence of this being, this life force, this thing, and your party being thrown through time and space through these portals, and being the intrepid adventurers and destined heroes. We can say it. I guess that's kind of how it feels. The party immediately resolves to do something about it.
And I love Marley's reaction at this point, because like everybody else, like depending on your party composition, most people, like most of the characters are just kind of like, that sucks that the world's going to end, but like whatever. But Marley is genuinely like losing her damn mind about it, and she really feels like the emotional center of the party going forward, which is unfortunate because I never fucking used her in the game from here on out. Like, this was the last time that she wound up in my party for any actual gameplay. But she really does feel like the emotional center of the group. But so we finish up with the 2300 AD stuff. And then you'll have to remind me, is this when we go to the end of time?
It is. So what happens is the party backtracks. They've resolved to do something about the situation. And Luca has created the gate key.
Because it's anytime four of them.
So they try to
go and
they try to traverse back through the portal, and they get thrown into kind of this black void, and they're met by the coolest old man. He's fantastic. He's just waiting.
I straight up like almost pissed my pants when this happened. The first time I saw it. Like, it was like the party jumps into the warp portal or whatever, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, this is like, it's like those tiny cemeteries you see in super old cities. Like, if you've ever been to like Philadelphia or Boston or whatever, where you get these like little cemeteries that are almost set into courtyards, and it has the spiked cast iron fence. It has that vibe, and then there's just blackness and stars beyond it. And I was like, this is eerie as shit.
Yeah, you're on the stone platform with a wrought iron fence and a single lamppost. It's so fucking moody. It's so cool. And an old man on his feet with a cane, snoring on it, like taking a nap on his feet. You walk up to him and you talk to him, and he about shits himself when you emerge, and he reveals that some sort of time-space law says that for plot reasons, only 3...
For totally not gameplay reasons.
Yes, that only 3 entities can traverse a warp gate at a time. And so anything that violates that gets thrown to where you are now, the end of time.
Yeah.
Which is just so fucking cool.
It is. It's very cool. And you wind up... you wind up at this point, I think, having the option to add magical attacks to your characters. Is that right? So if you decide to go through the door that's in the back of at the back of the platform, there is a curious critter back there named Specco.
And that old man too strongly encourages you to visit that area. He's just like, you should really go in there.
And this is one of the very few times in my life playing video games that somebody was like, hey, you should do this thing, like you really should. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it. Because normally I'm like, fuck it, I'll just keep going and get my ass handed to me. But no, this time I actually did fight the white puffball with the fox ears.
Yeah.
So there's like a cotton ball that teaches you how to use magic. He's like Yoda. If Yoda was a mix of a jackrabbit and a Q-tip.
That's really apropos. Description.
But so he teaches you how to use magic attacks, which you'll need. The only one, of course, that can't learn magic is Robo, because Robo is a robot, and robots can't learn magic because they're not real boys. And then you wind up going...
You end up back in Guardia, kingdom, and
yes,
and
that's
you
right.
are basically conscripted by the nation's armed forces to go help repel Magus's forces at Xenon Bridge, and that's
you're conscripted to carry jerky.
Oh my God, that's true.
That's actually true.
The troops are the troops are short on food, and what are we going to send them? A little pack of Jack's Links.
Yep. The troops of Guardia have to snap into a Slim Jim, so you're sent to feed the troops, and then you fight. Oh my God,
Zombor.
The little Zombor, but more importantly, what's his face is in trouble. What the hell's his name?
Oh,
Who
Ozzy.
is the Ozzy's in trouble?
Ozzy, that's right.
Ozzy's in trouble. So like Ozzy's in a pickle. That's it. Ozzy's in a pickle. That is such a delightful translation. I really want to know what the original Japanese says.
It depends on which version of the English. If you play the original one, he says Ozzy's in trouble. The DS translation is Ozzy's in a pickle. Because the DS translation really is more... It's more conversational. It feels more like actual dialogue. Magus's lieutenants, Flea and Ozzy, which figured out... are fantastic enemies. They're so good, and so you fight your way across this bridge to the southern continent. It's the bottleneck, and it's like basically it was like the Battle of Thermopylae kind of equivalent in this universe.
Yeah,
where you're holding
yeah.
back the enemy at a choke point, and once you're go for it.
I like the boss battle at the end of the bridge. You fight a Zombor who keeps saying doom, doom, doom all the time. So I use that as an excuse to go, I'm a sing the Doom song now. Doom, 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 doom.
I got a smoothie. It's chocolate bubblegum.
It's chocolate bubblegum. What do you got there? What's in it? There's waffle in it.
Fantastic writing in that show.
It's got peanuts and soap.
All right.
Yeah, so we find our way to the southern continent after the Doom Skelly. And that's another great, fairly early example of a boss where you have to strategize like which part of it you're going to defeat first, like what to prioritize, because it's his like base is like, isn't it like 4 giant spikes and then he's like balanced on top of it with his like rib cage and arms and skull, but like they're 2 separate pieces that you fight, and I think one of them will heal the other piece if you don't defeat it first, so you kind of get some like the game teaching you some of the tactics it intends you to use. And then once you're across, so you visit the village on the southern continent, and they're basically celebrating the fact that that a hero has been selected or been found bearing the hero's medal. So like the kingdom, or like the kingdom of Guardia has some sort of a special medal that only the hero bears. And this little boy comes back bearing the medal from, like, I think from the mountains. And they're basically celebrating him as the return of the hero, and they're basically getting ready to like kick this kid in the ass and shove him out the door to go kill Magus and his army. And he's like 9, and he's like freaking out. And so you basically track after him and follow him to a bit of forest north of the village. Tata gets sent off on his quest as a little 9-year-old kid to defeat Magus. This is absolutely going to succeed. He's definitely not going to end up with his head on a spike outside of Magus's castle.
No, not at all.
And I believe in the town they tell you a rumor that someone saw a suspicious creature in the forest to the north. And so Tata heads off to the mountains, and you head off to the forest north. And in the hidden grotto...
Cursed Woods, right?
What's that?
Yeah.
Is that the Cursed Woods?
I believe so. And so you find a hidden grotto at the back of the woods, and Frog, our old friend, is hiding there, feeling dejected. Frog clearly has some sort of we'll find out later he's got a long history with Magus, but in the short term, it's pretty clear that he's motivated to help. Brent, you look like you have something to say.
Yeah, so first off, I love my physical copy of this game is the Japanese DS version, and I love in the manual that came with it, everybody's got the name that they have. Maybe it's spelled slightly differently, but Luca's Luca, Marley's Marley, Chrono's Chrono. Frog is Keiru, which is frog in Japanese. But I hate the fact that his name is Frog in the game because I love him. He's one of my favorite characters. And so every time it's like Dragonheart, that shitty 90s movie that I'm certain that you've seen, where he's like, oh, I'm not going to call you Dragon, I'm going to call you Draco. And it's like, well, instead of calling me Dragon in your tongue, you call me Dragon in some other tongue. It's like, I can't, every time I play this game, because it asks you, just like Earthbound and many other 90s RPGs, it asks you what you want to call everybody. I 100% always call him Keiru now, just because I'm like, oh, he's Keiru. Like, he's, it feels more, it feels like I'm giving him a little bit of something to call him that. To get him to, kind of snap out of his depression, you wind up having to get the hero's pendant.
Yeah, you get the medal back from Tada, who has gone to the mountain.
And then you get the Masamune, the sword. And the Masamune is really like the main thrust of the next third quarter of the plot.
That's right, because the rumor is that Magus can only be defeated with the Masamune, or you can, at the very least, you can only gain access to him with the Masamune. And
right.
And it wouldn't be until I was an adult that I kind of realized the relationship between the sword and the Masamune, if obviously in any other mythos is a sword usually, but in this case it also is, but it also has some personification. And it wouldn't be until I was an adult that I realized that of course Magus, Janus, and Masa and Mune are all from the same time period. Of course, it's the only thing that has survived until then that has any power over him. I think that's fascinating, the way they build that out.
And also the fact that the Masamune is the name of a legendary Japanese sword in multiple different pieces of Japanese media. And I love the fact, and we'll get to it real quick here, but I love the fact that they break it into two individuals. That's just super neat to me.
I was going to say, like, that fight is hard as fuck, too.
That's where the difficulty ramps up for me.
Even as an adult, doesn't matter how many times I've played this game, it is probably, and I don't mean this as a horrible negative thing, but it is one of my least favorite fights of all time.
Ooh, no, I really enjoy it just because I think it's so unique. So just real quick to get us there. So you wind up finding the broken hilt of the Masamune sword. But it's the sword of the hero. It's the sword that's going to defeat Magus, who's been the villain that's been behind everything up to this point, or at least so you think.
Side note, that reveal after you finally win the sword is so... See, you're in this cave, you fought, what Kirk is right, is a very difficult boss fight. Yeah. And you kind of have this flashing image, and it's just an after image of this large broadsword kind of gleaming in a ray of sunlight coming down from the ceiling. And as you could call it like the fog of battle or whatever, as the battle fades and the sword itself is revealed and everything is kind of laid bare, you realize it's this rusted, ruined piece of metal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you wind up, you have to, like, to get the Masamune, you have to, like, go and you find these two children that are playing in a cave, Masa and Mune, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you've probably come for the sword," and at the time you're kind of thinking, "Okay, well, like, where's the big fight that's coming?" And Masa and Mune are not human children; they're spirits, aliens, creatures. I don't know.
I think they're creatures I like to think of magic.
Yeah, I was gonna say they like if we're gonna follow the Japanese motif, they're kind of closer to the Oni.
Yeah,
just because they're there for a purpose. Like
yeah, that's a good yes. I think that's probably it. And they are like spiritually bound to the sword, or the sword is an incarnation of them. So you wind up fighting Masa and Mune separately, and then they unite into Masamune
in a straight up Dragon Ball Z fusion.
It is. It's absolutely like it's the most fucking Megazord thing ever. Because they're like, yeah, with my strength and your courage, we'll kick his ass, and they form into a bigger creature. And this is the point in the game where the difficulty there's really two like steep jumps in difficulty in the game. This is one, and then the very final boss is one. At least in my my experience playing the game.
I do feel like this was like a damage check kind of thing, where it's like, hey, if you can't beat this, you should go back and grind a little bit. Like maybe you skipped a little too many fights, and you should probably go back and refine your characters just a little bit. Maybe spend some money on some better weapons and armor, or go to a forest and grind out for a little bit. Because again, even as an adult who's played the game multiple times, it's like don't get me wrong, I don't hate it or anything like that. Like it's just not my favorite. It's
grueling.
It is very tough. It is satisfying, I will say that, but it is just flat out tough.
But yeah, I mean, like, I think one of the things that I like about this game is that there's not a lot of grinding, but the flip side to that coin is because the expectation of 90s JRPGs was that you would grind, they certainly didn't expect you to miss or go around any fight. Like, you need to have fought every fight and bought every upgrade that something was available to you up to this point to be able to go through this fight.
That is one thing that I think about the gameplay of this game that is, I think, a little bit understated, but how well balanced this game is shocking. It's my opinion that if you fight everything that you encounter and nothing else, nothing more, nothing less, if you stop and fight everything in every zone and move on, you will be powerful enough to continue at every point in the game. So there's no difficulty for the difficulty's sake. The difficulty is based on exactly what you've encountered, and I don't think that's the right way, but I think it was the right way for this game.
Yeah, and certainly compared to other games of this genre and era that expect you to purposefully set aside the story and not try to progress while you just grind in random battles for hours, this is a significant leap forward in terms of just respecting the player's time and respecting that they want to see the story that you wrote, which is one of my main frustrations with video games generally. I'm like, you wrote a story, you want to show it to me, just fucking show it to me. Don't make me like grind for hours. Like, that's bullshit. And this game does not make you do that very much.
And you don't have to do it with optional content either. Like like your Final Fantasy VII's is and things like that, where you have the weapons, the optional enemies that you can choose to fight that are otherworldly difficult, outlandishly hard to defeat, and sometimes impossible without specific items. In this case, you do have optional content that is more difficult, but isn't unattainable for most players. And the thing is, it's all in service to the plot, and it's all in service to the story. So it is optional in that there are things that you can skip and still reach an ending of the game. But you'd be missing things if you surrendered those because it was inconvenient to do the grind. And I appreciate not having that.
Yeah. But this fight, though, I mean, you benefit from grinding if you do have the opportunity. I will say, like, it does make the fight a lot easier if you do, like, run through Guardia Forest or something a few times and you know, get some free cottages along the way and just grind out a bit. But anyways, yeah, so like the battle finishes, you see a dilapidated, rusted out sword.
Yes.
And then at this point, Benny, correct me if I'm wrong, aren't you instructed by the children to, like, hey, take me to the master swordsmith guy? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You find that is pretty much universally accepted that the swordsmith Melchior is the only one who can repair the sword.
Right.
And it's interesting that they would know who to find or who to go to, considering he's 400 years in the future from their time.
Right.
Exposition.
Right.
And foreshadowing.
And so, yeah, that's right.
So you go through Hecarim's cave, you fight another relatively challenging boss fight that gets you to Melchior. Melchior then says, hey, I'm happy to fix your sword, but I need this red stone, which it does not exist anymore on the planet. It's an ancient thing, which then sends you back to the place that, if you're like my dumbass, you've been to like 4 times already because you don't read the dialogue, and so you just keep traveling to random places trying to figure out where the fuck to go, which is 25 million BC. Is that the name of it?
At 65 million BC, because it's a pretty obvious reference to the extinction
Jurassic Park,
the extinction of the dinosaurs, right?
Yes,
and that becomes pretty. I think that event, like, you know, the asteroid impact and the year and all of that, is no coincidence.
Not at all. Not at all. Hey everybody, Future Brent here. So between the 2 recording sessions that we did on Chrono Trigger, we recorded, no lie, 6.5 hours of conversations about Chrono Trigger. I've seen speed runs of the game that are faster than our conversation about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this one more time. We are going to come back. I've got the audio already, so there shouldn't be any delays. I know there was a little bit of delay getting this episode out, which I apologize for. But we should see part 3, the final part of the Chrono Trigger discussion, on time, Monday, May 27th. That'll be the final piece of the conversation on Chrono Trigger. If you've been listening along with us, really appreciate it. Yeah, it's been really exciting to see the podcast grow a little bit. We're hitting some new highs on YouTube and on Spotify. So if you are listening, just want to say again, it really means a lot. If you are liking what you're hearing, please feel free to come join us on Discord, or start up a conversation on YouTube comments or on Facebook. Yeah, we're just looking forward to talking with you guys and seeing what y'all think about what we're doing here. Other than that, have a great rest of your day, and thank you for listening to The Games That Made Us.
Hey there, sports fans. It's 1,000 degrees outside and people are dying.